We were talking about the reign of Ahab and Jezebel in the northern kingdom, the kingdom of Israel. And we're leading up to the time when both Israel and Judah would fall. And eventually, of course, the 10 tribes of the north would vanish into captivity. But we were focusing on how it sheds light on our own era. When we're given a structure of life, and when experience has built up and taught us various things about the structure of life, we do well to pay attention to why things came to be understood the way they are. And in this particular case, the struggle against the fertility cults, which very often, as we said, had human sacrifices, which really did spread disease, and which caused considerable amount of misery among certain classes of people, but were based on a combination of religion or religious beliefs and the quest for momentary pleasures, what we might call instant gratification. This, of course, is the root of prostitution in general. Instant gratification on the part of the men who go and take advantage of the presence of prostitutes. The prostitutes themselves are often in one form of bondage or another, and the men would go for instant gratification. Well, instant gratification has become a part of our social structure. It's a part of our consumer capitalist society. And actually, so much of our economic structure is based upon promising, even though often it cannot be fulfilled, nevertheless promising instant gratification. Things have to be rather more instant now. And consequently, they also have to be more shallow and have less meaning. And life then becomes also more shallow and has less meaning. And some people, driven by that positive aspect of human nature, seek something more meaningful and with more depth to it. And so we do have great acts of charity and kindness and generosity among people, while at the same time we have enormously destructive acts of people. And in our area of British Columbia, we also have a number of deaths related to the drug trade, because we have two types of gang, those based in the Chinese community and those based in the Sikh or Punjab community, and the ones that drift up from even as far away as Mexico. There are billions of dollars in the drug trade, and the lure of this kind of wealth and the lure of the instant gratification that customers and clients get from the drug are a very potent brew of death and destruction in our society. We also see that we develop a kind of cult of sex and sexuality, and it's more visible when we see, for example, a gay pride parade, which is almost totally focused on sex or sexuality. The hidden part of it that we often don't see, and the seamiest side of all, or of course the women who are in bondage to pimps who are prostitutes in the worst possible conditions. All of these are the very things that were the source of the struggle during the reign of Jehoshaphat and of King Ahab and of Jezebel. Not only that period, but this whole struggle between the revelation of God and the pagan religions round about. This was really what was at the heart of the struggle, was whether life had any real concrete meaning, and whether a nation could develop in a way where the poor, the dispossessed, the widow, the orphan, the stranger were actually cared for and looked after, as so many of the prophets really encouraged Israel to do, or whether the society would collapse and be weakened and sort of debased by this quest for, well, really instant gratification. And in the case of Israel, the northern kingdom, this happened perhaps more rapidly than it did in Judah. But in any case, it did happen, and in the end, it cost the very existence of the northern kingdom of the tribes of Israel. And all that was left were the two tribes of Benjamin and Judah. So this is something that so permeates our own society, and it destroys so many lives. And yet, very few people in this society, even the most moral people, would be satisfied with anything less than the consumer capitalism that drives the passions of the day, because it provides a lot of consumer goods. And people who can keep some self-control and self-discipline can navigate through this era and can navigate through these particular problems without losing their souls. But at the same time, we continue to support and uphold this very culture and this very system, which is so enormously destructive to humanity and to the surface of the earth. And I'm going to go on a little bit. I'm not going to talk about carbon problem or global warming and that sort of thing, because there are so many other ecological issues. We know, for example, that phthalates and pseudoestrogens in the plastics and so many of the petrochemical products that we've become absolutely dependent on in our era create radical changes in fetuses and already born children, to a lesser degree, of course, in adults. The primary problem for adults is that so many of these chemicals cause cancer and cause hormonal disruptions and other changes, even heart disease to a certain degree. We know that phthalates, pseudoestrogens and other things have actually begun to feminize the male babies and have actually just come to the edge of destroying some species because the males of the species are being so feminized that they can no longer breed. We see male babies who go almost instinctively to girls' toys and girls' style of playing and playthings. And you've probably read about this in your local newspapers, Scientific American, Discover, and other publications. But this presents a rather serious problem, because we see that hormone changes actually have a very profound effect on the brain before birth, still in the mother's womb, and that they do have an impact on sexuality, and that as more and more male children are born with a kind of feminization, there's also a degrading of their ability to reproduce. And this is why we have a number of marriages in which there are no children, and the men simply don't have the sperm count to reproduce. So there are all these issues, and we don't turn toward them, and we can't deal with them. And the reason we can't deal with them is because the chemicals, the products that are causing the real problems have become a part of what makes life a bit easier in our era, in our society. And they're also responsible for huge profits in corporations and in regular markets. So we don't want to come to grips with and deal with things that we think make our lives easier and better, and sometimes more gratifying, no matter what kind of destruction or what kind of harm they cause. And we're then ultimately not much different than the followers of Baal, the pagan worshippers that Jezebel supported, because we operate on the same premises and on the same basic passions.